Welcome to the Boundary Breakers podcast, where we will be talking to the incomparable, admirable entrepreneur, investor, trailblazer, Stephanie Tsuru about the power of embracing she. I am so excited to get to talk to you about the power of she, and starting really with the origin of it all. So we've known each other for almost a decade.
Really?
Yeah. But it feels like maybe like 30 years.
Yeah. It was one of those relationships where we knew each other forever the second we met. That's what it felt like.
The moment, the literal moment we met, it just clicked.
Yes.
But I remember the moment you talked to me about this idea of SheSpace. Do you remember?
I do. I think you were probably the first person I went to, which is how we do things. And I had an idea. It didn't even have a name. So it was just a burning concept in my soul, and I went to you, and I think you probably are as much responsible for SheSpace as a lot of other people, but you've known about her from the very beginning.
Yeah, from the very beginning, which is so special. And I remember uniquely the story you told me, the origin story about what inspired you. Was a group of women abroad, and they kind of planted a seed. And I'd love for you to share that story.
I thought we need a physical place to bring people together. And so this is the perfect time to say, I went to you, I went to all my close advisors.
Yeah.
And then I went to my daughter-in-law after a couple months, and I said, this is way too big for one person, and I invited my daughter-in-law to come along.
Yeah.
So my daughter-in-law is actually the co-founder,
Yeah.
Which is also very unusual, not a daughter-in-law. So she brings a different generational interest and perspective, and she comes to SheSpace with an entirely different story, but that is my origin story.
And I remembered you just talking about entering that space and how much love and laughter and joy ensued. And just tell us a little bit more about that and how you created that here.
When we entered the space, what you felt was joy. They were literally singing and dancing and doing each other's nails. They were learning like vocational skills there, but they were enjoying each other's company is what was happening. And everyone was dancing. We don't dance a lot here, but we do enjoy each other's company. And so we set out to recreate the feeling.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's the feeling and the energy the second you walk in the door here, and I think you'll agree.
Yeah.
What sets us apart is what you feel when you walk in the door. And a lot of that is the color, but mostly it's the people and the women.
Yeah.
And so it is a feeling of 100% support 100% of the time.
100% support. That is always my feeling, one with you as a friend and a mentor, but also just in this space. So joy and laughter and how that was such an inspiration. Talk to us about why that matters to you so much. Where did that come from?
I think no matter what we do, keeping an optimistic mindset and positive mindset is so valuable.
Yeah.
And I am a glass half full. I'm a glass 3/4 full person all the time. Not all the time. No one is all the time. I would say 99% of the time. Like even with difficult things, I try to look at the humor in it. And you and I are very good at that. That's one of our things we enjoy is laughing together.
Yes.
And I think that's really important in here. I think the sunny side of things always helps. It doesn't mean you're not being realistic. It just means it gives you the ability to get through, the clouds.
Yeah.
And everyone in here does the same thing.
Yeah.
But even if you come in to SheSpace on a down day, you just don't stay down for long.
No. It also sounds like the spirit of your grandmother and your mother. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It sounds like that lives in you as well.
That was a gift that I didn't even know that I was receiving until I was so much older. So my grandmother was widowed at a young age and lived on a small farm in northern Missouri. And I think at the time, when she was facing what to do, like, does she sell it? They had lived there their whole lives. Or does she just continue on and farm so she can? I always like to say she put on her jeans. She would never wear overalls, but she did put on her jeans, and she farmed the farm by herself.
Wow.
For a good 17 years, 18 years. My mother was of that same pioneering spirit, but I didn't realize until I was older that not all women were like that not all people were like that. So to me, it was just so normal.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like a risk. It's just something that we do. So risks are not difficult for me. I don't think I see them as a risk.
Yeah.
I think the light that I look through is just different.
Yeah.
And so I think it's maybe a challenge, but you're very similar. But you're more calculated, and which is good. Like, you're much more pros and cons. And I'm like, are there any cons in that? So we learn from each other.
Yes, yeah.
And I learned so much from the women in here because everyone has a different way of looking at things.
Yeah.
But I always look at the positive.
Yeah, I can tell. It's funny because you're usually telling me, like, okay, I'm going to give you space to be super analytical, Patty, because I'm usually here. And our conversations really bring me back to the center in my heart and what motivates me and what inspires me. And you're right, it's so much of the feeling of SheSpace, which is actually where I'd love to go, which is how deliberate you were in the design of SheSpace. I don't think many people know just how intentional. I mean, there is joy. In
joy.
The colors and the design and the
But it was
location.
intentional.
But it was intentional.
Yes.
And can you tell us?
So I do think it starts way before SheSpace was actually opened its doors. So Katie and I knew that the location had to be perfect, but in a different way than you would probably think. So yes, all the things, like we wanted to be right on a major highway, on a bus line, all those things. But we are not in an office park or an office building, which people that don't know SheSpace aren't aware of where we actually sit, but we sit in a retail shopping center. And the reason we sit in a retail shopping center is because women have so many things on their plate, and the most valuable resource to them is time. So if you think about all the red lights that you sit through trying to get to the grocery store, to the gas station, to the hardware store, to get your nails done, to pick up your prescriptions, if you take all of that travel time and all the red lights out, how much time you have put back into your day, into your week, into your month. So the cumulative effect of that is great.
Yeah.
So we had to find the perfect spot in a shopping center.
Yeah.
Which, to put an office space in a shopping center is very unusual.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing for us that's very important, because we're all women here, is parking.
Yep. Yeah. Talk more about that, because
So
I know
parking.
that was
So we're
very
thinking at it
intentional.
from a woman's perspective, and since Katie and I feel responsible for everyone, we had to say, okay, what will we not do?
Yep.
We will not go into a parking garage.
Yep.
We will be steps away from the front door. It will be free. It will be abundant. It has to be convenient, because what's the good of a free large parking lot if it's 2 blocks away?
Right.
Doesn't do anyone any
Yeah.
good. So that the hardest thing for us now, as we look for our next locations, is parking.
Yeah. And especially I think about Houston, and 6 months out of the year, it is like really hot.
Really.
And I think about the commute or the transition of that as you're talking about. But if we take a step back, so SheSpace is a co-working space for women who work. And in an interview with the Houston Voyage magazine, one of the things you said was, there are lots of needs that women have, and our job was to alleviate as many, or to promote as many of those as possible.
And to break down to eliminate the barriers.
And to eliminate the
as
barriers.
many as we could.
Yes.
As we could.
Yep. Yeah.
So they can focus on what they need to do.
They need to focus.
Yeah.
And I think you are targeting so many different types of women, right? Women who are entrepreneurs, women who in the journey of entrepreneurship, whether it's startup, established, transitioning. There's a woman here who I'd love, and she sold her company, and she's here doing different projects, and she feels really at home here to sort of press restart. But you're also supporting women who are transitioning in and out of the workforce, which
Yes.
that is a unique position for women to be in.
Yes.
Because sometimes women are not competing only with men in the workforce to secure their roles. They're competing with their ability to jump in and out as they bear children. And
It's a big factor.
it's a big factor. And I think SheSpace is contributing to providing them with a home, an office space, a community to vacillate and take care of however they want to journey into their lives.
So you asked about the intentionality early on. So the first thing that was on the list of things that must go into SheSpace was a lactation room.
Yes.
So we are here for all women, and every day that all women circle gets bigger and bigger. Originally, we were thinking female founders, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, but we opened during COVID, in the middle of COVID.
Middle of COVID.
Why wouldn't you open a co-working space in the middle of COVID?
I remember.
Because that's the easiest route.
Take that rap.
So about 50% of the women here now are remote workers. But many of them are working on their own little side. The thing now people call is a side gig.
Yeah.
So they are working on their job, they're paying their bills, but they're working on their side interest.
Yep.
So there is so much of that going on. And we see women coming out of corporate. They have to get their side gig up and running, and so they're all working together. They're getting ideas from each other. So we can have a CPA and an attorney and a graphic design. All these people are inside SheSpace, and so whatever they need, like literally is down the hall.
Oh, listen.
It's crazy.
We have a launch party coming up.
Yes.
And we have the person who will be doing our charcuterie is from SheSpace. The decor is from SheSpace. It will be hosted at SheSpace. We have built so many relationships here, to your point.
It's made my life so well, it's lovely, but it's just simple. I'll just okay, what do I need and who do we call? And at the front desk, we're kind of like a resource center. So people come, do you know someone that does this? Do you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not just, it's things like we have women in construction in here. SheSpace was built 100% by women.
Talk about that.
That's
I'm
amazing.
so happy.
Yeah.
Because
you remember this from the very beginning.
I remember.
Yeah.
You have to talk about that. That is so special and I think very rare.
So again, it goes back to the intentionality. So it took longer and it was harder, but we wanted women-owned businesses. And the majority of the women that helped build SheSpace were women-owned businesses. Even like the exterior signage, IT company, everyone is a women-owned business. If we could not find a woman-owned business, and there were just a couple, we said we have to work with the female rep.
Right.
But 100%. So it definitely took longer.
From design, from legalese to construction, everything. I mean.
But also, everyone was so invested in the idea and came together as a team. So like our female construction manager and architect kept saying, you don't realize how unusual this is, because this is usually so difficult and the process was flawless, and it flew by because everyone was so interested and invested and passionate. It just came together.
It just blossomed quickly.
Yeah.
I remember you saying it takes women to empower women, or it takes women to support women.
I think so.
Yeah. So as a co-working space, you are inviting essentially all types of women. You're offering them the external convenience of being located in a centralized place where they can save time. There's like a Kroger right across the street. There is a nail salon downstairs. There's a food restaurant downstairs.
Yes.
And the Heights is just a perfect location to be to do the things that you need to do within a day, considering your life outside of it. Talk a little bit more about what happens in SheSpace that makes it so special and a place of belonging for so many women.
It is what we've just been talking about. It's the community that everyone knows everyone. It's kind of like a school. You know, like when you walk into the front desk of the school, like the principal knows everyone, and the people at the front desk know everyone. And it's very much like that here. Like, how was your foot surgery, and how's your dog, and how's your mom doing, and how is the paper, and all these things. That is what it's like here. And so that's why we know everyone. And Katie and I spend a lot of time at the front desk, and people are really shocked to come in and see us sitting at the front desk. I am in our office very rarely. I call it, kind of like managing by walk around. So like I just always know what's going on. It's not necessarily conducive to getting work done, but I feel like my role here as kind of like the senior person is to make myself accessible. And so what goes on in here is people are very motivated, and then so they're productive. So if you're working at home, you can work here for 5 hours and get done what would take you 8 hours at home.
Oh my gosh.
Most people are distracted.
Yes.
So they're like, I need to water their plants and do the dishes and fold the clothes. Even though you're also procrastinating, which is what everyone does. It's just natural. So all of that is just eliminated here. So everyone's more productive, creative, and that's what happens here. Patty, it's the relationships. So we're talking about work, but really what happens here? Our relationships are formed.
Yeah.
That's the magic. That's the magic.
Yeah.
That's the special sauce here, that everyone knows everyone. And so people, the women here, they will round out their friends' rough edges. So you and I do that a lot. Fill in the voids. So like a CPA is going to be able to give someone advice on and that type of thing, on something that they're out of the field. We have about 300 members.
Yep.
And about probably 300 different industries here. Everyone does something different.
Incredible.
Very, very little overlap. Everything from, physicians to veterinarians to, like I said, women-owned construction companies to, it goes on and on. Mm-hmm. Opera singers.
Yeah. Nonprofits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, lots of nonprofits.
Yeah, lots of nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of nonprofits who find themselves, one, attracted to the centralized location, but also to the invitation to community, which I think that by design, you have several different types of office spaces. And so there's always agency in trying to choose a space that works for you. You also host quite a few community endeavors. So vision board setting. You've hosted an invitation to workshops, which I attended one, a Laugh Factory, where you had a professional, like a corporate advisor, come in and teach women how to use humor in their discussion and in their pitch. And
the value.
Yeah, the value of it. I mean, it's even the education is diverse.
Yes, and that is another thing, the programming, the educational component is another thing we take very seriously, and it's what I'm really interested in, and again, it is giving women the tools that they need. Not all of us know how to do everything. When we first opened, and we were still offering like these programming and these training sessions, but we didn't have a large enough base of women, so we were using women just from the community. Now, we use the women inside SheSpace, because we feel a lot of our mission is to give them exposure.
Yeah.
Whatever it happens to be. Social media expert next week speaking, but she's also our social media person. Oh. So we use profitability coach, women in health and wellness, and counseling, and we only use the women inside our circle now and we're learning from them, and they are being promoted and helping grow their circle. So it's just like a complete beautiful circle.
Yeah. From outside to inside, and it also extends generations. It's not only sort of expansive in nature, it's also carrying the legacy onto different generations of women to inspire them.
We do have a lot of kids that come through here, because that's part of what women have to do. I have to go pick up somebody, and they'll come in after school, and yesterday was a little crazy in here. I think we had a couple strollers. We just do I have been known to, stroll in circles till while a mom was in a meeting. We all, again, you could ask anybody, and anybody would help. But since I'm usually at the front desk, then I'm usually available.
Yeah. Front desk, there is a library. The rooms are named very intentionally after incredible and powerful women. So
that was hard.
Tell me more about that.
Because there's a lot of amazing women out there. So we have 3 named after just very important women in history, and then 3 more named after my granddaughters. But so the first was Ida B. Wells, and I use it as a teaching moment because I think she was one of the most important women in our U.S. history, and not many women know about her. Not as many women know about her as should, and so I use it as a teaching moment. Then we have Frida. Everyone knows Frida, kind of like tipping our hat to culture. Yeah. And then we have the RBG room. Yeah. So as we expand, now we're working on selecting our next influential women to go on the rooms.
Yeah,
but
by design.
Everything in here is about women. Like you mentioned the library, all penned by women.
And what has been some adversity that you faced on this journey of building this enterprise that is so welcoming to women? It feels amazing for us now, but I can imagine behind the scenes that it wasn't always easy.
This is going to surprise you. It surprises most people. It was a lot of hard work, but it wasn't difficult.
Yes, that is surprising of a statement. Please say more.
I think it's when you love what you're doing, even the challenges are worth it. And because we were working with women, the problems were solved quickly. I mean, I'm not saying we didn't work. I think we were here like 12, 13 hours yesterday.
You work around the clock.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's still full of joy. It's not that there aren't frustrations because we're learning so much new every day.
Yeah.
But it's really like, okay, we can get this done, but we just have to figure out how
to do it. Yeah.
And so that's the challenge, but there's so many people to lean on that it doesn't ever feel isolating or lonely. Someone in here is going to know.
Yeah.
How to do whatever it is.
I just learned a statistic, which is actually, I've talked to you about breaking bounds forever. And it was the loneliness of being an executive that really was the impetus for starting, the company. And I read a statistic that loneliness can be equivalent to smoking 10 packs of cigarettes a day.
The physiological.
Yes, like the impact of that. And it sounds like that is...
It's a big part of this,
Yeah,
though.
that's gone,
It is gone.
And so it sounds like it's just a new entrepreneurial creation that feels hard.
So because of that, this was not part of our very original plan, was our largest and fastest growing group inside SheSpace is the social networking group.
Oh.
Which you are a part of.
Yeah.
And you were, I think you may have been the very first person to sign up for it. Maybe I signed you up for it. I can't remember.
It
doesn't really
things.
matter.
It is.
It's like, and it's called She Connects. And this is for the women that will not necessarily be coming here to do office work.
Yep.
But they want to be part of the community. Like, there are so many women moving into Houston every single day. Every week we meet women that'll say, "Oh, I moved here yesterday, a week ago, a year ago, during COVID was tough." And they are seeking a community.
Yep.
And so that's where we have all these events. So like the vision boarding, and a couple of weeks, next week we're having a brunch, a birthday brunch, or baby shower brunch. We have all of these things. And so it's a way for women to remove isolation from their lives. It's something to look forward to, even if they only come like once a week or once a month. It is very important to us to work on women's emotional well-being. Starts with that.
Emotional well-being, their ability to accumulate wealth in the way that they want to. They'll have the access, the relationships as you describe here. There's just, I cannot say enough how this place is so much like home. I want to change gears a bit, and I'm actually gonna read, because there's something really special about why SheSpace is so pivotal at this point in time, because of historical context, and because of really women's rights in our country have always had to be fought for. And so I was just sort of doing some research, and here are just some really significant points in time that will sort of lead up to also why this is unique, not just for a place for belonging. But in 1848 was the first women's rights convening. In 1890, Wyoming decided as the first state to allow women to vote in every election. Like 1890. It's like not that long ago.
No.
It's not that long ago.
Keep going.
Keep going, right?
It's going to be, get even crazier.
In 1938 was the first time that women were approved for not being discriminated against for minimum wage. 1938. Then we have 1972, which Title IX was created, right? I'm like, I was born in 1982. You know, like sports and access to equality in education and athletics is such a big part.
That's amazing.
I went
Disturbing.
to college on a full basketball scholarship. Right? And like how I was able to traverse so many layers of access by getting a scholarship to a prestigious university and come out of college debt free and start my life. I was able to buy my first home at 24 because I graduated without debt. In 1974, women were granted the right to have credit cards without their husband. So like imagine all of those conditions, right? Like first of all, you have to be married in order to accumulate wealth, which America's economy, a part of it is built on the ability to have access to credit. Like not a lot of economies have that. So women are off the board from starting businesses, owning homes, like all the things that can help you participate in American wealth. Women could not do independently. And let's not just say like, then the match struck and then everybody had it, right?
No.
It took decades even for that to boom. I mean, without some of these trailblazing women and these policies put in place and the fight for women's rights, I wouldn't have access. Like we probably wouldn't be sitting here.
Probably
this
not.
may not be here.
Yeah, maybe not.
So when you hear that, like what does that mean to you?
I'm aware of those and I appreciate those, and we have come a long way. But I also hear so many stories, and my daughter-in-law Katie has stories, and one of the main reasons she left corporate oil and gas after a decade and came to do this was circumstances. And I hear it every day, and so you're aware of the discrepancy of women in the C-suites.
Yep.
I think women oftentimes, because of like Katie and the dissatisfaction, they leave. Oftentimes they choose to go out on their own or go in a different direction. And I think that is a lot. There's so many women in here that used to be in corporate America.
Yeah.
So I think the pool dwindles, and we need to. Part of me feels like, we need to correct that. The other half of me is like, I'm thrilled these women are doing what they want to do.
Yes. If
it was a choice they wanted to make.
Right. With agency. A lot of women have found their place as they, to your point, transition within. But there often isn't a place to transition. It usually is from a place to home, and then it's really difficult to get back into
And we see
a career path.
See a lot of that, and that's very frustrating.
Yeah. And here
Disheartening.
you have that access point, which is really amazing. It's so beautiful to hear you sort of swing back to joy, even in that statement, to say, I hear those and I hear the barriers that have been presented to women. And it sounds like what you're now seeing is that SheSpace and many more SheSpaces that we will see down the line, which is a question coming soon, is offering women agency and choice. It's offering them the ability to say, I will be where I want to be, not I have to be here or there.
It's huge.
I mean, it's big.
And it's almost a luxury to be able to have the choice, and not everyone has it. We need to remember that. But more and more, it's power, Patty. That's power.
Yeah. I think about your grandmother when you she didn't necessarily have those choice points, right?
I would love to ask her now.
Yes.
Did you stay on the farm because you had no other choice, or is it something you wanted to do? I would love to ask her. I think she loved it.
I was going to say, what do you think?
I think she loved it, and I think she absolutely stayed because it was her life. But I don't think she knew how difficult it would be. But I do feel like it was her choice. And really, don't we want to give everyone choices, so that you feel like you have control?
And there's a difference between, agency and choice that I've learned.
Yes.
But, choice can be between a rock and a hard place, and that's sort of different than agency. And I think that's what you were sort of illuminating is that, women, if they choose, if they have agency or not to exit, they have that ability now, particularly with a place like SheSpace. As we transition, I want to go into one of our last questions about passing the baton.
Okay.
And embracing the power of she has been a lot of you connecting who you are as a woman and a wife and a mom to the design and the welcoming space of SheSpace. And I know you deeply as all of those parts of you and how much they matter, how much it has mattered to build a community around Frank and being a cancer survivor, and how much you were able to engineer community around that, how much you engineer community in the social sector with lots of philanthropic efforts, how much you bring your grandkids along who call you honey, which is the most adorable name. Like, it
is my favorite.
It.
And I did not name myself. That name was bestowed on me.
It was bestowed. I love it. So talk to us about how you're passing the baton to the next generation.
Katie and I talked about that a lot in the beginning, and our views on that are different. Just because I have more years, but to me, I am driven to do this as a model for my girls and my granddaughters, and I think that I feel just as strongly about many of the women in here. I spend so much time with them, and I feel my purpose is to it's emotional because it's very powerful. So my purpose is that every single woman in here is doing what she wants to do, that she's fulfilled, that she is happy, and I choose to do things that most women my age, they do find ridiculous. They don't understand, like why I would choose to work 12 or 13-hour days, but I'm doing it while I can so that they can do what they want to do. And I hope I can do this another 20 years, but I try to make every single day matter to its fullest extent and touch as many women's lives as possible in every way possible. Inside SheSpace, outside SheSpace, in my family. It's just what I do.
Yeah.
It's just what I do.
It's just what you do. I am so grateful that you opened so many doors for me, like you said, in and outside of SheSpace. It's beyond words, Stephanie. I get to experience literally everything you said about who you are and what you build, and I'm forever grateful. I'm so grateful. Oh. So we are going to end with surprise question. So in this bowl, we have about 30 questions.
Okay.
And you will choose one randomly and share with us your reflections. You ready?
Yes.
Okay.
So I hope this gives us an opportunity, because normally we're very funny with each other, and we've had to be so grown up today. So I hope this lets us be, kind of like normal, like our normal us. Okay. So just pick one?
Anyone.
Okay. And you already told me I can't put it back in if I don't like it.
Knowing you will toss that thing behind you.
Oh, this is a good one.
Okay. Let's hear it.
What do people misunderstand most about you?
This
is a good one.
This is good.
I am an introvert.
Oh, this is good.
Yes.
Okay, do share.
So I think here, first of all, this is my comfort zone. So I am I'm very outgoing and gregarious. I do a lot of public speaking. So people are always shocked to learn that I am not only an introvert, but I'm very shy.
Oh.
So that is always, it's very, the reactions I get when people learn that. So I have used that and leveraged that in here because it really is tied to confidence.
I was going to say, then how do you...
We haven't talked about confidence.
We have not.
No, it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. And I always am asked, where do you get your confidence? And my answer is, I really don't know. Except I think part of it is just what I was born with, part of what I just observed from the women in my family. They call it, I think, professional extrovert. So it's a skill I have learned.
Yeah.
It's a skill I have learned, and it really is helpful for younger women. And like, how do you do that? And the networking thing.
Yeah.
Is very important. Like networking for introverts is painful.
It's really hard
until you don't think of it as networking.
Right. You have to like change your frame. You're like, I'm
So,
going to connect and build a relationship.
I think that's something that people just are very interested to learn about me.
Yeah, we've known each other for a while. I would not peg that. I would not have guessed that. So thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for sharing your story. And you matter, your story matters, and we're so happy that you are a boundary breaker and continue to be great for everyone.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you so much for being here.
So special.
Yeah.
So special. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you. That's another episode of Boundary Breakers Podcast, where we are elevating the stories of game-changing business leaders working towards the social good. These boundary breakers have defied the odds, transformed social norms, and created a way for themselves and others by breaking boundaries and building bridges. As you've heard, boundary breakers rarely get there alone. If you are in need of an executive partner and coach to break boundaries in your respective industry, visit our website, breakingbounds.com. You can hear more boundary breaking stories by following us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Music.